Are you traveling to Acadia National Park? We have 6 things that you should do while you're there.
Over the course of being up and around Acadia National Park, we basically took all the things we did and we condensed it down into a list of the 6 things that we found to be our favorite things that we did while we were there. And we're just gonna jump right into those right now. Number 1 is Cadillac Mountain. Acadia National Park and Cadillac Mountain is like the crown jewel within Acadia. So it's very heavily trafficked. There's a lot of tourism up there, but it's worth it to drive up the mountain. You get gorgeous views all the way around Acadia in every direction on the way up there. And then when you get to the top, there's plenty of space to find your own little quiet place. We actually went out and found a little quiet place to picnic, and we sat quietly and ate with a beautiful ocean view with islands littered in the background. Then we finished up and we found some hiking trails.
If you're in Acadia National Park, definitely get one of their guides. They have hiking and biking trail guides. We picked one of those up, and you can pick out whatever intensity level that you're looking for. So we found a pretty easy trail. It was roughly 2 miles.
Yep.
Round trip. It was up on top by the viewing platform, and it overlooks Bar Harbor. So that was our favorite hiking trail.
They had a little store up on top of Acadia where you could go in and purchase little knickknacks. You could get a special root beer that they make just there.
I like it. Cheers.
We found some sodas to try.
Cheers.
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 We went from Cadillac Mountain, which I'm going to segue right into the number 2 thing, which is
Bass Harbor Lighthouse.
Right. All right, so the lighthouse. It wasn't anything really too special, but it was the shoreline down behind it that was really the kind of hidden gem in that area. There's a little path around the side of the lighthouse that goes back into the woods a little ways and goes down to the shoreline. It's kind of steep steps, so might be a little wary of that. You get down to that shoreline, you can just see out to the open ocean there, and there's lobster traps everywhere, but the rocks are huge. They're real similar to the rocks that we saw in Portland, Maine. Huge rocks, and they look real old, and it's cool. Looks like they're wooden or something. Anyhow, we just sat down there and just relaxed and kind of soaked it in for about an hour. And I did a little hiking on down the rocks themselves down to kind of a point and came back up. On our way out of Acadia National Park, we had to at least stop in to Bar Harbor. It was late in the day because we'd spent the whole day in the park hiking and stuff, but we had to at least go through Bar Harbor. So we drove in, we parked, and we got out and we walked the streets, and it's a really neat little town. It's very touristy, but that's all right. There's plenty of restaurants to eat at. Everything you can think of is there. There's museums littered all throughout the city that you can go and visit. There's paddleboard rental places. There is also plenty of boat tours. You could go out into the harbors there around Bar Harbor and out around the islands. There's tons of stuff to do there. You could easily spend a week in just Bar Harbor alone.
We stopped at this ice cream place. Definitely stop in there. They have amazing ice cream.
It's very, very delicious. So we actually stayed on our drive up to Maine, up to around the Acadia area. We didn't actually camp in Acadia, or really even right outside Acadia. We went an island down to the southwest onto an island called Deer Isle. There was one RV campground out on the end of this island, and that's where we stayed. Just outside of that campground down the road, we'll take you to Stonington, Maine, which it's like the main town on Deer Isle.
Stonington is a must. There are plenty of little shops that are adorable, places to eat, more ice cream, which is also delicious. And we visited their Discovery Wharf, which is free to go into, and you can go in and see all of these neatly colored lobsters and they have
Flounders?
They have a flounder in their
in there.
tank.
Mhm.
They also have crabs in their tank. It's so cool. And some of the lobsters in there are like split down the middle in 2 different colors. They're like polka dotted. They're really neat. So the kids really enjoyed seeing that and getting to touch them. Also in Stonington is their harbor, and it's pretty big. There's tons of boats that come in and out of there, and it's apparently the biggest lobster catching place in Maine, and they are really big on it. They're big about conserving their fishing and all of that stuff there. So, and they'll educate you on that when you go into the Discovery Wharf. It's really cool to see all the boats.
Right. So there's tons of little local restaurants scattered throughout right there off the harbor too. We ate at a couple. There's little stands like ice cream stands and coffee stands and all sorts of things that you can just walk along down the harbor and walk right into. There's little local bookstores, local like antiquity stores, all sorts of little things like that. So Stonington itself is worth just at least a drive through if you're going to be going down to Deer Isle, if nothing else.
Apparently, Stonington is where they got the granite for some of the famous buildings in the United States. This used to be a stone cutting place. That's how they got their name. And they are also one of the biggest lobstering places in Maine. So,
Yeah, they cut all the marble for, I think, Grand Central Station of New York City. That's what we were told,
yeah,
or
so
the majority of it. So it's pretty neat.
I'm gonna look that up, see if that's true. But if that is true, that's really cool.
Stonington was number 4 on our list. Number 5 on our list, not really a place, it's more of a thing, but eating a fresh lobster from Stonington. We went on down to
Stonington Lobster Co-op.
Right. We pulled a lobster right off the boat right after it was just caught right then that day. So it's priced anywhere from $6 to about $8 a pound, depending on what kind of lobster you get. They have soft shell and hard shell lobsters. We went with a soft shell because that's what they recommended. They said that it's a little less meat, but it's a sweeter, better tasting meat. So we wanted to try that out. We were happy with the end product, but we wish we did have a little bit more meat. So if we do it again, we probably would go with a hard shell.
For sure.
So just a little tidbit if you're interested in purchasing a fresh caught lobster. It was interesting cooking a fresh caught lobster for the first time. We'd never done that, so
Yeah.
that was just kind of a unique experience in itself for us. Number 6 is the hiking around Deer Isle itself. There was tons of preserves, and we visited a couple of them.
Crockett Cove Woods Preserve. After we saw Stonington for the first time, we ran across this preserve called Crockett Cove Woods. It looks like something out of another world. You walk into it and the moss is just thick. It's like a foot thick. The trees and everything. It's so quiet out there. And there's just trails that go in and out and around. When you do get out there, there are maps on posts that you can take. And just make sure you pack out what you pack in. So
the trail she's talking about, it was a very short trail. It was probably like a 1 mile loop, and that's it. The 2 biggest things that I took away from this hike in particular was, first off, how quiet it was in these woods. So if you've ever walked into a room, like a soundproof room with the little like triangle things on the walls, that's literally what this entire forest, the sound level was. The ground there was like this real soft, spongy kind of grass material. It was like a cross between grass and moss. It might have just been moss. But anyhow, like it was like walking through sand, but on moss. So that probably attributed to how quiet it was in there. But anyway, just walking through there for a mile, if I could get our kids to be quiet, it was extremely peaceful. It was just, you couldn't hear hardly anything at all. And there was just a really relaxing feeling to it. The other area we found to hike in was the Bard Island Preserve hike. That was the hike that was a little bit longer. It was about 2 miles round trip, about a mile out to the island and a mile back. Depending on when you hike this trail, the tide will either be high or it'll be low. We happened to hike out at the highest time, so we couldn't actually access the island itself when we got to the end of the trail. But it was still worth the hike regardless of that. I think we got it there around 4 or 5 o'clock. It was a nice time to hike. It was cool, but the sun was going down and the tide was the highest. So if you really want to get the full experience of the hike, you probably should go out in the morning and try to get out there by around noon. I think that's low tide. So then you can walk right out to the island and check it out. But just the hike out there to the island was phenomenal itself. So
wear good shoes and take some water. There are tree roots and stuff coming out everywhere, so just be aware of that.
Take an extra pair of underwear if you have toddlers.
Yes. Extra pair of underwear and a Walmart sack.
Right. That's the end of our, list of the 6 must-dos while you're around the Acadia area. We just wanted to quickly go over what we did and what we picked out that were our favorite things while we were in the area, and then just condense it down in a nice little guide for you guys if you happen to be in this area. So thanks for stopping by.
See you
Make
next
sure you
week.
subscribe if you're interested in seeing more.
So we're staying in Greenlaws Campground in Stonington, Maine. It's out on Deer Isle. We are here. This is actually a 50 amp site. This is actually a really great campground. It's so quiet and you can see the Milky Way at night from here, which is fantastic. You can also hear the horn blowing from, alerting the boats. The 30 amp sites are roughly $30 per night. They're full hookups. The 50 amp sites are $38 per night with full hookups, and they add tax on after that. Really affordable. It's really close to town. There's some really interesting things to do here, including Nervous Nellies. You can get fresh lobster, which we're cooking right now. That's about it. Like, there's fire rings, full hookups, picnic tables. The 50 amp sites do not have any cover. As you can see, there's no trees to cover. The 30 amp sites over here in the woods, they do have coverage, so that's kind of nice. There is a pickleball court down there that's new and it's really nice. This is by far one of my favorite places that we visited, just for the simple fact that it's away from everyone and we've had this campground to ourselves. If you're in the area and you're looking for a campground that is affordable, it's full hookups, and it's kind of away from everything, this is it.